Good morning, everyone, and welcome along to today's webinar. We're looking at CH50 accounts, and almost we're back to basics with some of these topics that we're going to be running over the next couple of weeks. So today we're looking at customers and manually creating records. So how do you go about doing that? What options have you got? What to look out for? This is what we're covering in the session this morning. So a quick introduction. I want to talk a little bit about account references, something that you'll come across quite quickly when you start creating records, something to maybe think about as well to help you plan your account reference sort of structure, I suppose, is for the want of a better phrase. Quite easy to just head straight into that and not think about it, and then get to a point where you think, oh, I wish I'd done this. So always good idea to maybe just think about that a little bit, the structure that you want to use. Obviously, we'll be looking at creating records and also pick up on the defaults. Once we've generated record as well, we'll have a bit of a look through that record as well, see what options you've got available to you. Just at the end, I'll explain more about the additional support. And as usual, if there's any outstanding questions, I'll try my best to pick those up for you as well. Keep them coming. So let's start with a little bit of background. So first of all, are you going to create customer records? So ideally, it's where you offer credit to customers. So you're raising invoices, so you need to track that, see what's outstanding, keep their details, or maybe you just simply want to track the activity. You might not even offer credit, just a way of entering an invoice and recording a receipt against that straight away, and you just want the ability to track that in your accounts. Well, obviously, by having those records there, it saves time with things like returning customers. You've got their details already recorded. Now, we always get asked about recommended levels. So what's the maximum number of records or transactions that you can have? It's all published in our help center, but for customers, it's recommended up to 5,000. Now, that's not a hard limit. It's just a recommendation. You're not going to set up 5,000 records and then it just stop. It will just go on indefinitely. But the more you have, potentially the slower your software would run. The impact on that, only you will know. But as I say, that's not a hard limit. If you've got the data manager switched on as well, then when you hit 80% of that, so when you get to 4,000, it would start prompting you. Just say you've reached 80% of the recommended limit. But again, that's not a hard limit, so don't think that's cast in stone. If anyone's wondering about transactions as well, I believe it's 250,000 transactions is the recommended limit, but again, that's not a hard limit either. If you need to check how many you actually have, a couple of ways you can do that. Either pop into your customers ledger, it'll tell you at the top, say all records, and it'll have however many records you have in brackets. But you can also go into help and about, potentially normally where you'd look for things like your version number if you asked. So help and about within your software, and then just in the records section, it will say you'll have a sort of a customers option. So there'll be active customers and inactive customers. So it'll tell you the number of records that you have. Now, one of the key things to think about when you're thinking about records, and this goes for customers, suppliers, maybe your product records, services, possibly even your nominal codes, although generally most people with nominal codes do stick to 4 characters. But for each record, it must have a unique reference. Now, for customers, that can be up to 8 characters, and it's alphanumeric. So I've got some examples. It's very easy when you first start using Sage to think, right, well, customers, should I use their surname? Should I just give it a number? Your Sage account number with us will be 8 digits. Now, if you've got thousands or hundreds of thousands of customers even, pretty unlikely on Sage 50, but if you did, then you want it to be meaningful to you, so you can find them quite easy. So using, as an example, John Smith is the customer. If you were just to use 1 or 00001, doesn't really mean a lot to you. So not as easy to find as maybe if you use Smith and some numbers on the end, or Smith then maybe the first initial. You might go down, right, we'll use if it's a person's name, we'll use the first 3 letters of their surname, and then we'll go on to initials, and then maybe numbers. You might just fill it up as much as you can. So Smith GOH as an example. So have a bit think about that. Account references can't be changed once you've added them. So you might be aware, if you ever tried it, you've gone into an account and think, oh, I'll try and change this one. If you're typing in a new account reference, so let's say you had it 00001 and you called up that record and it displays John Smith's details, and you think, well, actually, I'm going to go for Smith 01 now. As soon as you type that in, if that's a new record, as soon as you tab out of that account reference field, it'll bring up a blank record asking you to fill in the details. Or if it's an account that exists, it will just bring up that record. Just bear me 1 second. Someone's saying they've got no sound. I'll send that to everyone just in case. Right. Okay, let's continue. So as I say, it's one of those that it's pretty much fixed once you've done it. So have a bit think about that before you start setting them up. There is an opportunity that you do have though to duplicate a record. Now this is an option I think is not available in Essentials level of the software. I'll show you that once we get stuck into the demonstration a little bit later on. But if you're determined to switch the account references, you can essentially highlight the existing record. Let's say the 0001 account. You could highlight that, click duplicate, and then it would bring up a copy of that record with all the sort of address and everything in there, and you could pop in a new account reference and save it. It doesn't transfer any of the activity details though. That's something to be aware of. So we'll come on to some demonstrations in just a moment. Now, as far as creating records is concerned, you've got a number of options. One is just to go into customers and into record. It's probably where you start, or customers and then wizard. Again, good place to start. And with that one, it will prompt you for the account reference. It will sort of make a suggestion for you with that one. I suppose that's the big advantage of using the wizard. But other than that, you probably just find that you go directly to the blank record. You can create a record on the fly. So if it's, let's say it's a new customer, you're busy taking an order or entering an invoice, you can do it there and then. So you would just bring up the sort of your records list. You should have a new option. It'll bring up a blank record for you. You can start keying in the information there and then. So you don't need to cancel what you're doing. Just enter it on the fly. You can import. Laura's going to be running through a webinar on importing records. Can be potentially a good time saver, that one, if you've not explored the import option before. I think once you've looked at import and you've seen it demonstrated, you might start thinking and spotting those opportunities going forward, thinking, well, actually, if that information's on the likes of an Excel document, could I just import that rather than sit and key that in? If someone's providing you information, might be your accountant, as part of a year-end list of year-end adjustments, could that be provided in the form of a spreadsheet where you can then import transactions? So import is a good option to look into if you've not used that before. And of course, there's that duplicate option as well. I do need to touch on defaults. There are a number of defaults specified. So with it, you'll see those within settings and customer defaults. Defaults are used so that when you create records, it'll pick up those defaults. You'll still be able to change them, but it will pick up certain defaults that you've specified. So even after saving the record, quite a number of the defaults can be amended within that record going forward. It's a default, meaning that potentially you don't need to change it. Anyway, let's run through some demonstrations. We'll have a quick look. I'll share my screen. We'll get stuck into some demos. Right, so if I pop into customers, and at the top here, you can see where mine says all records, says 31. I've included the inactive records. If you've got any flagged, I take that tick out of there. It'll display all the records, assuming I've got no filter applied. And now telling me I've got 30, but in total, if you need to check, just tick your little box, make sure it's switched on, the include inactive checkbox, upper right, and then it'll say all records, and it'll tell you how many you have. So if you're 5,000 or more, you're starting to get towards the upper sort of recommended limit. Now to create a record, we've got a number of options. We'll start with the wizard. Now you might find that the wizard option is displayed as a separate option on your toolbar. Just depends on the resolution of your monitor and how many options you've got displayed. If there's any options you don't use, so there's a section here, for instance, for Go Cardless integration. If you don't integrate with Go Cardless, you might think, well, actually, I'll hide that and that'll get rid of a chunk of icons. So if you do want to get rid of options, you can just right click on your toolbar, find whatever that option is called. So request payment as an example, and I could switch that off. I could right click, I'll switch settlements off. And you might find some others appear as you're switching them off, but it means I've now got extra options at the top here. If I wanted them back, I would just right click on the toolbar at the top and I can start switching those options back on, or I can just click back to use defaults and back to where I was. So as I say, you might have the wizard option either displayed separately, or it might be on this sort of grouped drop down where it says new edit. So if I click the wizard, launches the wizard, and first of all, it's going to ask me for the name. So what should I do? Let's put my name in today. Now, in this case, it's suggesting for the account reference, in this case, Michael C. I can still change that, but it will suggest it. It'll be based on the name that you type in. The only time it's any different is if you've got the word the at the beginning. It ignores that. If I type in a brand new one, the green, you'll see it just ignores the word the. That's one of the little sort of benefits of that. You don't want loads of them beginning THE on the account reference. So you would just type in your name or whatever you want to use. Again, it will read the characters in order as well. So this doesn't go, if I type in John Smith, so it means that going forward, if I was searching for that type of record, I'm looking for John Smith when I'm entering an invoice as an example, would I be better off having the surname at the start of the account reference followed by initials or numbers, make it a bit easier. Well, again, I can click into that. I can override what it suggests if required. Now, the idea with this wizard, it's got the relevant sort of options for you. So it's going to guide you through that process step by step. So you would just obviously fill in the details, click next, and start working through that. When you're done, save it, and it will add it onto your list here. Now, if you've used the wizard before, and you might, well, actually, I don't want to work through that wizard. I don't want to just keep clicking next, to quickly get through that. You might find that you just go for a blank record. So if I just click the icon at the top there, top left, and it gives me a blank record. Now, if I type, you'll see, as I type, it gives me the drop down. And as if I want to bring up a brand new account. Oh, sorry, I want to select an existing account. But if I type something in, and I'll just do Smith J. Because that doesn't exist, when I press tab, it will come up new account. In the company name. And then really that would be enough at that stage. If I wanted to save the account, I can do that. I can just click save. That's it done. It gives me a brand new, a blank account at that point. It will add it to the list. So there it is. That's probably the least amount of information that you would need to enter. But obviously you'll want to record things like address details, etc. Now, to save you having to key in the address each time, if you've got that address stored somewhere, so you might have received some sort of document. So I've just got mine on a notepad document. If I just highlight that and right click it and copy it, what I can do is in the address area is I've got this little paste option. You'll find that's available when working in other areas where there is an address required as well. If I just click that, it'll pop in the address for me, just to save you typing and get it in. Obviously, other details in here, you've got on the main details tab there, you've got the key account details at the top. You've got the registered address. If you're on Sage 50 account standard or professional, you'll also have the option to enter multiple addresses and contacts. Oh, we'll save it first. Might come back to that one. And then obviously direct debit manager. If you use Go Cardless, you've got contact information, social media, and then you've got up to 6 email addresses these days. It used to be 3. I think it used to be 1 if my memory serves me right. Then we extended to 3. So the idea with the email addresses is you might use them for different purposes. You might have a standard email address for use when contacting the company, but you may also have one that we use for sending statements to. That might need to go to a different one. And it would just be a case of, I suppose, amending the email settings on your various layouts that you use to pick up this email address rather than the first one. It's always the first one that it's going to pick up by default. Little checkbox as well. It's really just for reference purposes, that one. To say I send letters, statements, etc. to this customer via email. So you've got that record. So if you're transitioning from printing to trying to get across to fully emailing, it just means you can easily filter your customers. Right, we'll come back to the other tabs in a few minutes. So I'm just going to save that one again. Now, we mentioned some of the other options. So creating a record on the fly. So if, for instance, I was in, let's say, invoice and credits, we're doing a new invoice. The account reference, if I click on the drop down, that one doesn't exist. And obviously, you've got the search option to help you there as well. I could just click new and it would bring up a blank record. Again, key in some information. And then I can save that record and that's ready to use at that point. It would just add it to your customers list at that point. So again, nice and straightforward. Other one we mentioned as well was import. Laura's going to be running you through the import option in a webinar, I think later this week. And then the final option was to quickly mention the duplicate option. So if you've got one and you think, actually, I need to change the name or the account reference of that one, it just doesn't work anymore. Or maybe you've got one that's company split, very similar details. Then you could highlight a record, use the duplicate option. Again, that might be listed as a separate option on your toolbar at the top. So duplicates. And what that will do is it will pull through. Actually, I'll do one that's got some details in there. So we'll do the first one. And it will pull through. So you've got all this key information here. And all you need to do then is type in. So I'll just do A1D. Just A1D 123. And I'll just amend the company name. The rest of the details is already entered for me. And I'll just save it at that point. And that adds that for you. Often used if let's say if you use Foreign Trader and you've already entered transactions in your base currency and you now need to set them up as a foreign currency account. It's a good way of doing that. So you would duplicate the first account, give it a new account reference. Obviously, change any other details at the time as well. Then you would save it, and that's it done for you. So there's a number of key options when you are creating records. Other option we mentioned was customer defaults. So if I go into settings and then customer defaults, and you'll see there's some defaults for your record. Now these are not cast in stone, these. So I can specify the country and the currency and the tax code I want to use, the default nominal code, department, and a number of other options as well. The options that you do have, so for instance, in this discounts area, you might not have that. It just depends on the level of your software. So it gives you the option to specify these. This is a good little one here going forward. Terms agreed, tick the box. I'll come back to the setting in the record in a moment. But those settings, if I just OK that, and if I go to create a new record, call this one 123. And if we go into the defaults tab, a lot of the information will be pulled through for us. So things like the default nominal code or currency or tax code and the department. So it pulls that through from the customer defaults. We can still override all of those settings if we want to at this stage. Even after we've saved the record, a lot of those settings you'll still be able to change. Some will be locked down. So for instance, your currency will be locked down as soon as you enter a transaction, but otherwise you will be able to still change them at any time. So your default department, for instance, for that customer record. Those defaults are also used when you import. So if you're importing and you don't specify things like a default nominal code or tax code on the import file, it will pull through the defaults from settings, customer defaults into that record. And again, you'll still be able to change them within the record itself, but it will pick those up and see if you haven't to specify it. Right, let's have a look at the record itself. We'll just pop into one, I'll just double click it, bring it up. So we've looked at the main details. I think that's self-explanatory, most of that. You've got a number of other tabs down the side here. Top one's based on your settings. Bottom section here, activity, sales, projects, etc., all based around your activity, so the transactions and the documents you create. So popping onto defaults here, you've got what we term your custom fields. Now we do have a specific webinar that we got booked in for that one. Again, half-hour session, just explaining how you can use them. By default, they will be called Analysis 1 through to Analysis 6. You can change the names of those if you can think of a use for them. So we've got one called customer type. You might categorize your customers as retail or trade or whatever else you want to call them. You might split your customers and flag them for a particular region or whoever manages them, looks after them, or anything else you can think to categorize them. You might just use these boxes as a way of recording additional information. You've got pricing and discounting options. Now, pricing and discounts are quite a big area, that one, within your software. So there are some webinar recordings on those areas, both for discounts and for price lists. So if you want to find out more about them, remember that link to the recordings is included on your follow-up email. You've got your miscellaneous defaults, so things like your nominal codes, tax codes. You've got some overrides in here as well. If you've not come across those overrides before, they are used when the likes of you enter an invoice. So let's say it's a product invoice. The product record itself would have its own nominal code and tax code. So by default, it will actually use that on the invoice itself. If you want it to override that, that's where you would come in with these little tick boxes. And then you've got some other settings in there as well. Credit control. Two key settings in here that I'm quickly going to mention. First of all, your credit limit. You offer credit. Always good to record that. And also the little terms agreed checkbox at the bottom. If you don't have that ticked, when you start entering transactions, you might be familiar with it. Come up in terms of not being agreed with this account. I think you can get rid of that message these days as a little checkbox, but otherwise it will keep coming up until you tick that checkbox. And to avoid it in the first place, if you go to settings, customer defaults, and tick that box in there, it will automatically pick up that setting as you add new records into your accounts. But loads of options in here. Again, they're all explained in a recorded webinar, that one. Alternatively, you can just click the help option at the top or press F1. And again, it should guide you through into the relevant help area so you can find out more about the various fields that you've got available. The bank option, unlikely that you're going to use it on the customer side, but you can. So very unusual to actually record banking information, customer banking information. It's mainly used on the supplier side. You've got the alerts option, which has been around for a little while now. If you've not come across alerts before, it just means you can add an alert and you can say, right, I want to display an alert when I specify this customer. Let's say when I'm entering an invoice and I want to do it as a pop-up message. Just put some text in there, save it. Back to details. It's A1 design. So just to show you what that one looks like, if I go to invoices and credits, do a new invoice, choose that customer, and we get the alert popping up. So it might be a message, next time this customer contacts, please confirm the email address or whatever you want to do. So we can just say, got it. But you would get that every time. If you wanted to then remove that notification, that alert, you would need to go back into the record itself. So back into customers, into the record, back into alerts. There it is there. I can either amend it or you could just delete it if you wanted to. Fairly new feature, that one. I say fairly new. It's probably about, I've got it off the top of my head, about version 28, 27, 28, I think, when that was introduced. Communications you've got in here as well. So if you like to track documents that are being sent out, your contacts with customers, nice easy way of doing that. Nice and easy to record entries as well. Just add entry. Some options will do it for you as well. Communications is something that you don't have in the essentials level. At the other levels, when you send out, let's say, a customer statement, it will give you the options to record the entry or record an entry on the communications list. And then finally, you've got the memo tab there as well. So 2 parts to the memo. You've got the text area at the bottom, so you can record any notes you want. And then you've got what we term the document manager panel at the top. So if you wanted to add an attachment, it'll ask you what type. Is it electronic or is it just a filing system reference that you have? Let's say it's electronic. And then, right, where is the file? So it would just be a case of browsing for that. Let's see if I've got something on my desktop I can use. I'll just use that Word document. And then we can say, right, for this document that we want to attach to the customer, do we want to leave the file where it is? Not great if you run across a network, that one, because the location of the file will probably be specific to your PC. Do you want to copy the file into Sage Accounts? It'll move that. Oh, sorry, copy it so that you've got the original and the new one. Or you've got the option to move it. That means you've got the advantage then of not having two versions of potentially the same file floating around. So quite a few options in there, but the key with customers, suppliers, etc., is all to do with those account references. The easier you make that, the more sort of, I suppose, the quicker you're going to be able to use the software when it comes to raising invoices and posting receipts and payments, etc. Do we have any questions at all? If you do have any, remember you can just click that option top right. If you've got the panel displayed already, it will switch to the questions panel. And remember, there is that handout at the top as well if you do want a copy of the slides. Now that brings us to the end of this. It feels like a really short webinar this morning, but it does bring us to at the end of what we'd planned to cover. I'll give it another minute or two to see if any questions do come through, or if there's anything maybe you've seen in the background that you want demonstrated, let me know. You can try and cater for that as well. Loads of webinars booked in. So when you get your follow-up email, there will be a link to our main webinar page. Do check that out. You'll be able to access our registration page, or just head along to sage.co.uk /webinars. Right, I'll come on to Becky, your question there. I'll come back to your question in just a second. Just quickly bring up my very final slide. So many thanks for coming along. Let me know what you thought of the shorter format. Again, we're just sort of trialing it this month and next, just to see how that goes. You can submit your feedback on the survey that should pop up as you leave today's session, and that follow-up email will be with you in around about an hour. So link to today's recording, link to the registration page, and link to the recordings page. So if you can complete that, it'd be great. Becca's question, will deleting a customer be okay if there's no activity in this financial year? It must have no activity whatsoever to be able to delete it. So even if let's say you've got an invoice from last year, if there's any activity whatsoever, it will not let you delete a customer record. And that's similar for suppliers. You've got to get rid of all of that activity if you do want to get rid of them. What you can do is potentially just flag them as being inactive. So if you never used inactive before, it's a good way of good option for filtering your list. I think we've got actually a webinar on this one, but I'll just give you a quick demo. So let's just say this one as an example, this A1D123. If I just go into the record, and it doesn't matter whether it's got activity or not, it's got a zero balance, this one. There is other criteria as well, but there's a little checkbox here, inactive. If I tick that box and save it, as long as it meets the criteria to be able to be flagged as inactive, what it'll do, it'll flag it. So there's in this inactive column, there's a little Y there. And on a day-to-day basis, if I don't want to see those, I can just take the tick out of this at the top, this little checkbox at the top where it says include inactive. If I do that, those two that were flagged as being inactive are now just hidden from the list. So don't see those on a day-to-day basis. So if you're not in a position where you can delete them, then it's a good alternative. Becky, you mentioned there that you've already flagged them as being inactive. Right, great. So if you are in that position where there is no activity on the record, it'd just be a case of you can highlight them and either click activity at the top or go into the record and have a look at the activity. So if that's blank, largely speaking, there is other bits of criteria as well. So just must have no recurring invoices attached to them or recurring items within the bank area. But other than that, potentially you could delete them. You must have no activity at all. Remember, take that backup beforehand, and it also maybe take an archive as well. Question from Beatrice as well. Can you merge two customer records? You can't. You can transfer transactions potentially, but it would mean editing them one at a time. So I've got any transactions on this account here, for instance, this A1 Design Services, and I want to transfer that to this A1D002 account. It would be a case of me going into the activity, having a look and see, right, well, do I need to transfer that across, or am I happy that actually I'll just leave the historic information there and just start working on the new one? But there's no option to actually merge two. Right, those were the, I think, only questions I have. So we'll end the webinar just at that point. Once again, many thanks for coming along. Hope you've enjoyed it. If you've got any feedback or thoughts on the webinars, even topics you'd like to see covered going forwards, do complete that little survey and have a look through the registration page and get yourself signed up with any topics you'd like to attend. Many thanks, and hopefully I will see you again.